An investigating officer in convicted rapist and murderer Thabo Bester's escape from Mangaung prison has died. 59-year-old Jackson Mkhaulesi was found dead in Bloemfontein yesterday. The senior Free State policeman has been described as a hard-working and dedicated detective with more than 3 decades of service. Let's try and make sense of this development. Bring in legal expert Ulrich Roux, who joins us via our video link this morning. And Ulrich, it's always great to see you. Thanks very much indeed for making time. I wonder what first came to mind for you when you heard about this, considering, of course, that there had been so much said about perhaps who may be involved in assisting Thabo Bester escape, and therefore has an interest in ensuring we don't get to the truth.
Hi, good morning, Anna. Thank you for having me. Yes, I'm actually on my way to court as well, and I've pulled over next to the road to quickly speak to you. Well, it certainly is a sad turn of events. The police have confirmed that they are investigating the death of the senior police official who was the head of the investigative team into the Thabo Bester case. But I think without any sufficient evidence or proof, I don't think too many assumptions must be made pertaining to his death and whether it had any involvement or links to the Thabo Bester matters. One would have to wait and see what the police investigation into his death turns up. And then, of course, if there are any links or there is any evidence that links, the Thabo Bester matter to his death, then certainly that would warrant further investigation to determine whether there was indeed any foul play pertaining to his death. But at this point in time, it seems to me as if they do not have any evidence linking the two matters to each other.
Yeah, and I suppose they're also in a very difficult position because in a statement they released yesterday, they say that they don't want to actually discuss this matter in public. Now, for better or for worse, whenever there is a vacuum of information, it's filled by conjecture and speculation. I wonder if there's a way of being able to actually handle this, do you think?
Well, of course. This is a seasoned policeman who has family and who has loved ones who he's left behind. So one can see why they would not want to discuss it in the public. But again, I think that aspect must be looked at separately to the Thabo Bester matter. And if there are any investigations come up which link the two, then certainly that would warrant further investigation and then possible feedback from the police regarding same. But at this point in time, one can respect the police's views that they do not want to discuss this in public unless the public has an interest and the two matters are linked. But certainly there's always going to be speculation in any matters, unfortunately. And, our society is very involved in criminal matters and in high-profile matters in our country, which is good to a certain extent, but people must be cautious and wary of making their own deductions and let the police do their job. And again, if the investigation turns up any links, then take it further.
Yeah. Fair enough. Whether or not, I suppose, the death is linked to the case, his passing is certainly going to leave some kind of impact on, the state's ability to move forward here. Typically speaking, outside of this being a matter involving Thabo Bester, what does, the passing or the extraction of someone who played a role that he did do to any kind of, prosecution in this case?
Yeah, so he was the lead investigator on the matter. He would have had a team who works underneath him, and certainly, the DPCI or the Hawks in the Free State would have to now find a replacement for him to head up this investigative team. One can only assume, and I think also hope that there is a suitable candidate who will take over from him, but certainly he would not have been alone in this matter, and he would not have been the only person with intricate knowledge in the matter. So one hopes that the succession of the team and the new leader who is appointed will be able to carry on where he left off, to ensure that justice prevails and that a proper investigation is carried out, and that should sufficient evidence, which certainly seems to be the case in this matter, be present, that the docket then be handed over to the National Prosecuting Authority for a successful prosecution. Yeah. But it is not, an unknown incident within the South African police. Of course, there sadly are many accidents or tragedies that occur to senior investigators, and then it's up to the police to ensure that these succession plans are in place and that the team that worked with this lead investigator have sufficient knowledge in order to take the matter further without too much delays and without any hiccups occurring. And one would hopefully see that take place in this matter as well.
Yeah, in other words, fundamentally, you don't see investigations having to start from scratch because this person has now died.
No, not at all. In any criminal matter, there's obviously a police docket that is opened, and all evidence that is gathered and all proof that is gathered by the police is contained in that docket. And in today's day and age, these dockets are in electronic format as well. So the minute that evidence is procured or statements are procured, they are then scanned into the police system, and they are in electronic format. So it's not as if any of this evidence will get lost or will now be, because of the death of the lead investigator, go missing. It is purely a matter of the new lead investigator taking over, taking charge of the team, and ensuring that a proper investigation is carried out here. Remember that the police functions in criminal matters is to ensure that sufficient evidence and proof is collected and collated into a police docket, and then that is presented to the NPA. So the police and the NPA work together in matters such as this, and the NPA will ultimately make the decision as to what charges exactly Thabo Bester and his accomplices will face, and that will be backed up. That decision will be qualified by the contents of the docket. So one can only expect that there would be no hiccups or delays in this matter going forward.
Yeah, that's certainly the hope. I mean, if you just listen to how police have described him, you wonder what it will take to even just replace someone of his caliber. 31 years of experience, has a wealth of experience and knowledge in the detective environment. He's a highly skilled individual, and he certainly leaves a void. That's how the statement reads there. You can't help but wonder what it will take to, even train anybody else to be able to fill the void that he leaves behind in a context where police have always decried the lack of experience and skills they have within their ranks.
Yes, certainly. It's always sad to see a policeman with such experience and with such character no longer being part of the police. And I agree with you. That is exactly what the South African Police Services needs. They need this experience. They need leaders within the police to ensure that matters are properly investigated and that the NPA is given the best chance possible to make informed decisions as to whether to prosecute matters or not. Remember, it's not a case of persecution for the NPA. It's a case of prosecution, and that is solely based on the ability of the South African Police Services to perform their duties diligently and to investigate matters properly. And one can only hope that another investigating officer and detective within the police ranks who has similar experience and character as to this police officer who passed away is then appointed to take the matter further.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Ulrich, thanks for literally pulling over on the side of the road to help us make sense of this development. I appreciate your time on this Tuesday morning. Ulrich Roux, a legal expert, weighing in there on that particular development around the Thabo Bester saga.